Today, we're going to dive into a really complex, fascinating idea at the heart of psychoanalysis, the faithless analyst. Now, that sounds pretty provocative, right? But it's not about an analyst's personal beliefs or lack thereof. It's actually about an incredible act of professional discipline, the ability to consciously hit pause on your own worldview to truly serve the patient.
And right away, this throws us into a major paradox. I mean, think about it. Every single one of us is a product of our culture, our history, our traditions. So is it even possible for a therapist to become a complete blank slate? And here's the kicker. Even if they could, should they? Is that even the right goal?
All right, so here's our roadmap for unpacking all of this. First, we're going to define what this faithless analyst ideal really is. Then, we'll look at why it's pretty much impossible in reality. After that, we'll dig into a deep conflict between the goals of faith and analysis. And finally, we'll explore a powerful metaphor and a path forward that's all about dialogue and transcendence.
Okay, so let's start with the ideal itself. What in the world do we actually mean when we say a faithless analyst?
So this concept, which comes from the analyst Stein, is all about professional suspension. It means the analyst makes a conscious choice to adopt an attitude of deep, genuine respect for whatever the patient brings in. They deliberately set aside their own stuff to create a space that is 100% receptive. And you know, this isn't some new idea. Carl Jung himself really wrestled with the word faith. He basically said, look, for me, in my professional role, the closest I can get to faith is respect. He saw a profound psychological truth in all the major spiritual traditions, and respecting that became his highest ethical ground.
But here's the thing. As noble and important as this ideal is, it slams right into a brick wall. The simple fact that we can't escape who we are.
This idea of being a blank slate, it's just not real. An analyst's language, their deepest assumptions, even their gut reactions, all of that is shaped by their upbringing. That history doesn't just disappear when they walk into the consulting room. It's right there, active, and totally unavoidable. Just look at the founders of the field. Jung was thoroughly steeped in a Protestant world. Freud's Jewish identity was absolutely central to him. This kind of background creates what we call cultural complexes. And here's the catch-22. If the analyst and patient share a background, they might have the exact same blind spots. If their backgrounds are different, there can be this unspoken friction under the surface. Either way, perfect neutrality is off the table.
And this problem gets even deeper. It isn't just about where you come from. It's about a fundamental clash in what traditional faith and Jungian analysis are even trying to achieve.
Let's break it down. Traditional faiths are often aiming for things like salvation and forgiveness. The goal is to restore you to the community. And a big part of that is purity, which often means you have to repress your shadow side. But analysis? It's going in the completely opposite direction. It's aiming for wholeness, and you can only get there by integrating the shadow. It's about becoming an individual, not conforming. It's about transformation, not purity. These paths aren't just different, they're often heading in opposite directions.
And right here, this is the heart of the conflict. Purity, by its very nature, demands that you cut things out, that you exclude parts of yourself. Wholeness, on the other hand, demands that you include everything, especially the messy, difficult, repressed parts of your psyche. So you see, an analyst dedicated to wholeness is working from a premise that's fundamentally at odds with a faith leader who is dedicated to purity.
So, if perfect neutrality is a myth, and the goals are on a collision course, how on earth is an analyst supposed to navigate this? Well, the answer comes from a really beautiful, powerful, poetic metaphor. This is from a poem by Wallace Stevens called The Snowman. It describes this incredible state of pure perception. To have a mind of winter means you can look at reality without projecting all your own stuff onto it. The observer has to become nothing himself, to see the world as it truly is, to see not only what's there, but also the nothing that is.
Now, this isn't just some pretty abstract idea. It connects directly to some serious analytic practice. It's a lot like the philosophical concept of bracketing, where you make a disciplined effort to set aside all your assumptions. And it also brings to mind what the poet John Keats called negative capability, the ability to just be in a state of uncertainty, to sit with doubt, without that irritable reaching after fact and reason. That is precisely the state of mind the faithless analyst has to try and cultivate.
Okay, so that's the internal work, trying to cultivate that mind of winter. But what does that actually look like in practice, in the therapy room? Well, this brings us to the final and I think most powerful idea. You don't aim for neutrality. You aim for a dialogue that leads to transcendence.
The philosopher Martin Buber gives us a fantastic model for this. He talked about two kinds of relationships. There's the I-et relationship, where you treat another person like an object, something to be studied and analyzed. But then there's the I-thou relationship, and that is a true dialogue. It requires this huge imaginative leap where you genuinely try to understand the other person's reality from the inside out.
So instead of pretending to be neutral, the path forward starts with honesty. Both the analyst and the patient actually disclose their backgrounds. That honesty then becomes the launchpad for this deep work of imagining the other's reality. And what emerges is what's called a third position, a new kind of relationship that isn't built on being the same, but on a shared psychological kinship that goes deeper than culture.
And there's this incredible alchemical image for this called the rebus. It means the two thing. It's a symbol of opposites coming together, the king and queen merging into one single transcendent being. And in analysis, this is what happens. A mutual self is created that rises above all the original differences, forging something completely new and whole right there in the relationship itself.
And that really leaves us with a huge final thought. The therapy room, in a way, becomes a kind of laboratory for a much bigger human challenge. If this kind of intense, focused dialogue can build a psychological bridge that transcends our most deeply held identities, what can we learn from that? What does that teach us about how to create real understanding in our own increasingly divided and fractured world?